Picture this. It's race week at Monza, and every team's aerodynamicist is making a choice that seems almost reckless. They're stripping downforce, TARS, removing the very devices that keep cars glued through corners in pursuit of one thing: raw, unbridled speed down the straights. But here's what makes it truly fascinating. That single decision cascades through everything else. Suspension geometry changes, brake systems shift, tire strategies get rewritten. One choice reshapes an entire car. And that's where the real drama unfolds. Because not every team interprets this gamble the same way. Some engineers are aggressive. They'll run absolutely minimal downforce, betting everything on engine power and driver nerve in the high-speed sections. Others take a more measured approach, keeping a bit more wing to maintain stability through the chicanes and the parabolica. The team that gets this calculation right doesn't just win Monza. They demonstrate something profound about understanding their machine. Get it wrong, and you're either too slow on the straights or you're sliding off in the corners when it matters most. It's a risk-reward equation that has decided championships, humbled favorites, and launched unlikely heroes into the history books. So let's talk about what actually happens when you strip away that downforce and point your car toward the Autodromo Nazionale. Imagine downforce as an invisible hand pushing your car into the track. The more you have, the harder that hand presses down, and the more grip your tires have in the corners. But that invisible hand comes with a cost. It creates drag, like running through water instead of air. And drag kills your top speed on the straights. At Monza, those straights are merciless. Nearly 2 miles of flat-out acceleration between chicanes, where every tenth of a second matters. When a team removes downforce, they're essentially saying, "We trust our engine, we trust our driver, and we need to be fastest here," even if it means the car feels twitchy and unstable in the corners. Picture a Ferrari or McLaren with their wings trimmed back to almost nothing. The front wing is a thin sliver. The rear wing could almost belong on a road car. What you're looking at is a car that's aerodynamically optimized for speed, not for grip. And here's where physics gets unforgiving. Without that downforce pushing the tires into the track, the rubber has less mechanical grip to work with, especially at lower speeds. In the chicanes, those quick left-right-left turns that demand precision, the car wants to slide, to drift wide, to test the driver's nerve and reflexes. The suspension geometry has to change too, because the car is behaving differently through the air and off it. Engineers will stiffen the springs and adjust the anti-roll bars to compensate, trying to artificially recreate some of that lost grip through mechanical means alone. It's like tuning an instrument. You lose one note, so you adjust 3 others to keep the music balanced. And the tires? The tires tell the real story here. With less downforce, the tires don't heat up quite the same way because there's less mechanical load pressing them into the asphalt. That might sound like a luxury, but it's actually a trap. Cold tires have less grip, period. So teams run higher tire pressures and more aggressive compound selections, essentially overcompensating to reach the sweet spot where the rubber is hot enough, supple enough, to bite into the track. The braking becomes this delicate high-wire act too. Without downforce, there's less aerodynamic load helping to pin the car down under deceleration. The weight transfers forward onto the front tires more dramatically, sometimes to the point where the rear lifts off the ground. Drivers have to modulate the throttle and brake with millimeter precision, trusting their feel and the car's balance more than raw mechanical pressure. So when we talk about a low downforce setup at Monza, we're really talking about a complete ecosystem of compromises. Thinner wings, stiffer suspension, hotter tires, more sensitive braking, a higher risk of spinning. The team that threads this needle, that finds the exact point where straight-line speed doesn't compromise corner stability beyond recovery, that's the team that leaves Monza with trophies. And watching engineers make these calculations, lap after lap in practice and qualifying, is watching people push the boundaries of what's possible when every variable is spinning around you at once. The history of Monza is littered with the consequences of getting this balance wrong, and the triumphs of those who got it right. Take 2020, when Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes arrived at the Italian Grand Prix with a radical low downforce philosophy. The W11 was stripped back even further than rivals dared to go. In qualifying, that gamble paid off spectacularly. Hamilton claimed pole position with a margin that reflected the car's pure acceleration down the straights. But come race day, something shifted. The combination of low downforce, high tire degradation, and those sensitive braking zones meant precision had to be absolutely flawless. One small mistake, one moment of locking a wheel or running slightly wide in a high-speed corner, and the narrow margin disappeared. Ultimately, Hamilton won that race, but it required total concentration, a reminder that Monza rewards both boldness and the ability to execute that boldness without error. Now rewind to 2008, when Sebastian Vettel was still at Toro Rosso and Felipe Massa was driving for Ferrari with a setup so finely calibrated for Monza that every tenth of a second mattered. Massa's qualifying lap that weekend was extraordinary. A display of precision driving where the car's twitchy handling at low downforce became an asset rather than a liability in his hands. He secured pole, and you could see it in the data. The Ferrari was living right on the edge, maximizing the straight-line advantage while somehow impossibly keeping enough front-end feel to nail the chicanes. What made that qualifying lap legendary wasn't just the speed. It was the trust between driver and machine at the absolute limit. Then there's 2022, with Max Verstappen and Red Bull arriving with a low-drag package so efficient that it fundamentally rewrote expectations for what a modern F1 car could do at Monza. The car was untouchable on the straights, but the setup had to be so precise that even small changes to tire pressure or fuel load affected the delicate balance. Over a race distance, that precision discipline, brake by brake, corner by corner, is what separates a dominant victory from a costly mistake. These moments tell us something crucial. At Monza, speed is never just about engine power or downforce numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about a team's ability to read the track, trust their driver, and hold their nerve when everything is balanced on a knife's edge. Now, here's a thought experiment that reveals just how precarious this balancing act really is. What if a team arrived at Monza with a setup philosophy completely opposite to what we've described? Maximum downforce, maximum security, the philosophy of a street circuit rather than a speed cathedral. On paper, it sounds catastrophic. Your top speed plummets by perhaps 15 kilometers per hour through the parabolica and onto the straights. You'd lose battles to competitors on the straights, and realistically, you'd finish outside the points. But here's the fascinating part. In the opening stint, during qualifying trim, when fuel loads are low, that maximum downforce setup would give you incredible precision through every apex. Your tire degradation would be minimal, your braking zones predictable, your confidence absolutely unwavering. You might even post a qualifying time that surprises everyone. The driver would be thinking, this feels like a proper race car again. Yet the moment the race begins and fuel loads rise, that same setup becomes your prison. The car would be undrivable on the straights and you'd hemorrhage positions lap after lap. It's a pure hypothetical, but it illustrates the brutal truth of Monza. There is no compromise that satisfies every phase of the weekend. So here's what we're left with. Monza demands a choice, not a compromise. First, downforce isn't just about corners, it's about the entire operational window. High downforce gives you precision, consistency, and tire management, but bleeds speed on the straights. Second, low downforce is the opposite equation, raw velocity and qualifying heroics, but a tire management nightmare in the race and a braking stability concern under fuel. And third, those suspension and brake adjustments aren't fixes. They're survival strategies, tiny calibrations fighting against aerodynamic decisions that were made weeks before you ever arrived at the circuit. It's chess at 350 kilometers per hour, and Monza is the most unforgiving board of the season. Now, we've covered a lot of ground today. What topic would you like us to tackle next? Wet weather aero strategy, the physics of DRS, Let us know in the comments below, and please subscribe for more deep dives into the engineering that makes racing beautiful. Thanks for watching.